Imagine That, the podcast where we explore the magic behind the magic of your favorite theme parks. Join us as we pull back the curtain on the creative process, storytelling, and design principles that make Disney parks and beyond so immersive. Whether you're a lifelong fan, a curious creative, or just love spotting the details most people miss, you're in the right place. So get ready to tap into your imagination as we take a deeper dive into the lands, attractions, and stories that bring the parks to life. Let's imagine that together. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Imagine That. I'm your host, Amanda, and today we're going to be talking about Walt Disney because we are recording on Walt's birthday, that being December 5th. So before we get started, we want to thank our sponsors, Sunken City Designs, Getaway Today, and Where in the Park. And of course, big shout out to our lamplighters, our Patreons who are keeping that conversation going over on our Discord, which if you have not yet joined our absolutely free Discord, you totally should because all of us are in there. We're talking about parks all the time. It's a lot of fun. So scroll on down, click the link in the show notes, and come hang out with us. So before we dive into our topic, let's say hi to the rest of the crew. We got Kevin from Where in the Park. Hi, Kevin.
There. How's it going?
It's going well. Looking forward to our conversation tonight. And we are joined once again by Lewis, Sunken City Designs. Welcome back, Lou.
How's it going? Thanks for having me. I'm excited. Walt's birthday is indeed today, and I'm excited to be here.
We're happy to have you. It's been a minute. And this episode was actually your idea a few months ago. We were chatting about, okay, we got to do a special episode for Walt during his birthday week. And so we decided we usually record on Mondays and we're like, oh no, we got to make this a little bit more special and record on Friday. And so tonight's show came from the one and only Luis Medina. So we're going to be doing something a little bit different this time. We're going to be talking about some of our favorite Walt memories, talk about some things that he did in his life, both before and during the parks, during Disneyland, and then some struggles he faced in opening Disneyland that maybe we haven't discussed yet. And then we're going to do some armchair imagineering towards the end. So be sure to stay tuned for that. So let's go around the room. Right off the bat, what are some of our favorite Walt memories? Of course, we never actually met him, but
I was about to say that. I'm like, I don't have any direct memories of meeting Walt because he passed away in '66, right? So
yes.
it was a little before my time. But yeah. As far as like, Walt Disney like affecting like, my life, obviously, we're here. The fact that we're doing this podcast on the Walt Disney Productions means that we are big fans of the guy who created so many amazing things that have like lived on. Um, Also you have Mickey Mouse, you have Oswald before that, you have um the Silly Symphonies, which again, like I know I grew up like watching pieces of them like on VHS tapes and stuff. Um, and yeah, I mean, obviously Disneyland is probably the number one thing on all of our lists here. Imagine that. But yeah, I don't know. Can't think of anything like specific as far as like, that's the thing. But just the fact that he was so like perseverant, I think is really the most amazing thing about Walt. Is that when he had an idea, he just went for it. I left out Snow White there. So their first feature length animated film. Um, where people thought that it was like an idea that was insane. Like it wasn't even reality. Like what he was proposing was just something that's like, no, you actually can't do that. People can't sit through that long of a cartoon. And he proved he could, and that industry is still kicking today. So it's just kind of wild. How about you, Lou?
I mean, you stole all of the good ones.
That's what I'm here
I,
for. Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
I
you
thought the
stole
same
it.
thing.
I was like, Kevin. But for me, one of my favorite stories, I guess it'd be stories, not memories, but stories would be the Griffith Park carousel. We hear there's obviously a lot of mild different variations, but he's sitting at the carousel, he's with his two daughters, and he sparks up the idea of Disneyland. Okay, this should be a place where everybody can have fun. But yes, Disneyland came true, but to sit there and say, no, this is what I'm going to do and bet everything on it. But also too, that just goes back to what you said, the perseverance, like doing cartoons. Dad didn't want that. It was not in the family thing. All right, I'm gonna do this. Hey, not only am I gonna do this, but I'm gonna travel the country to do it and show that I can make this happen. And during this, took a couple hits. I mean, we all know the story of Oswald, what happened there. That's a gut punch. I mean, he went from Ironworks Disney to Disney Ironworks to Laugh-O-Grams to then Laugh-O-Grams to the Walt Disney Company. Like, I mean, it was a few different punches. Like, hey, what am I doing? How am I going to do this? But not giving up, saying, hey, this is where I want to be. But also, too, I guess I'm going to bring it up here. The smoking is one of my favorite stories. Like, yeah, he smoked. Yes, he did. But it was never to come off cool. It was just a habit he picked up that he couldn't break, but he could break it in times when he needed to. Like, hey, I'd rather that not be seen. But I'm gonna say Disneyland is my second favorite thing he's done. For me,
What?
it's got to be the animation, pushing the cartoons. Being a grown adult and an artist myself, drawing cartoons is not always seen as like a cool thing. But guys like Walt Disney made it seem cool. Oh, you're drawing characters, cartoons. All right, I could mess with that. So for me, Disneyland comes second. That's to the animation and cartoon building.
All right, all right. You redeemed yourself. We had a moment of like, wait, what? But that makes sense. That makes sense.
I was like, no, you're wrong, but that's fine. You can do whatever you want.
I was gonna cue the music right now. No, but that makes sense. For me, yes, you guys made some really great points, and I had to really dig a little bit deeper because you guys took all mine. But one of the things that we haven't really mentioned yet is just how much invented so much that didn't exist before and paved the way of like whatever means necessary to make this a reality. And he was very much ahead of his time in so many different ways. And he wasn't afraid to take risks, like we were talking about with like perseverance and stuff. But just think about how many things were invented and how many patents are out there from the Walt Disney Company that just have paved the way for so many after, like we wouldn't have like the multiplane camera, for example, and that really changed the game of animation. And so I think that's one of the things, like, yes, we know him for Disneyland, we know him for animation, but just paving the way for so many new things to come out in the industry. Um, I think that's really cool.
His willingness to try new things was definitely a big deal. Like, obviously, you have Steamboat Willie with the first sound in animated film, short film for that one, and then you had Flower and Trees was the first color animation, I
Yeah.
think. So yeah, he definitely was like, you know what, whatever is out there that we can do different, let's do it. Even Fantasia was like crazy, where they were reconfiguring theaters for the sound, and with his Fantasia Vision or Fantasia Sound, whatever it was called. And yeah, like stereo sound that we just kind of take for granted today was kind of invented by his I don't know about willingness, but his like desire to have his show be something special and have it where it sounded like you were really in a theater that was like playing live music. So yeah, it was pretty wild.
It, and it's incredible to know what he did pre Disneyland. Obviously, we saw what he did during his time with Disneyland, but also to think about today, so many big companies. I mean, there's a book that many people reference today, the Disney Way. We're all theme park goers here, and we go to different theme parks, and we're like, "That's cool, but nah, that's not quite what you could do with it." Oh, that show was all right, but imagine if you could have did that. Like it's now set the standard for not only theme parks, but many animation movies. Even though some of the movies the last couple of years for older fans haven't been the most like hit home runs. But you watch a bad animated movie for someone else, you're like, yeah, they could have did that better. And so like there's so many things that Walt Disney himself showed his Imagineers at that time that have showed another individual. I mean, referencing the Imagineering story. When you get to about episode 3, you start learning the Imagineers that were taught by Claude Coates, Rowley, X, all those guys that were like, hey, they taught me and now I'm teaching somebody else. So, and those were all things stemmed from Walt Disney. So it's really cool to know that things today, from little things to big things, especially in theme parks and the film industry, that are like, hey, Walt Disney did that back in the days, and it still lives on today.
I mean, definitely his ability to delegate was huge. His ability, because like right from the very beginning, like he was doing sketches of Mickey Mouse or whatever, but he was like, I am not the artist for this. He gave it to Iworks to actually animate. He gave it to teams to do all of his art. He just like I don't know if you had a chance yet, Lou, to see the new Walt animatronic over at Disneyland. Have you seen like a YouTube video of it or not? But he has like one of the quotes where he talks about being like a little bee that pollinates like um the people around him, like as far as like getting the ideas from one area to another to make it where things can actually happen. Where that was kind of how he saw his role at the company, was not to make stuff, but to kind of come up with the ideas and figure out a way to cultivate it and make it where it actually happens. And it was, I don't know, it's amazing, really, if you think about all that he was able to accomplish in his lifetime.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
what came to mind too was that he started from nothing. You know, like he built this from the ground up. He had the vision to be an animator even when others were like, "What are you doing? That is ridiculous. That is not a career." And but he was scrappy and said, "No, this is what I'm doing." And he had that drive and determination. I think that's really, really, really cool that it's not like he had, you know, a ton of money or he came from money and was like, I'm going to do all this with my money. Like it was, no, I'm starting with me and making this happen. And what do I need to do to make that happen? And like you said, you know, he had his struggles and he could have said, all right, I'm done. I'll just take a corporate job somewhere. I'll continue the newspapers or whatever. But he's like, no, I'm going to continue on and I'm going to make this happen. So I love that. But yeah, putting the teams together, and we've mentioned it many times on this show of like he knows how to pick people and focusing on their talents even when they don't know those talents themselves and say, "No, you need to be over here in this role doing this and that's where you're going to thrive." And that's awesome. We need more people like that.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, a good example of him knowing what he needs to do versus not is after his passing. I mean, the two, was it Card Walker and I'm blanking the other name, that took over for him and Roy. I mean, they didn't know what they were doing. The company kind of was at a stalemate for a little bit there. So like to show he knew what he was doing and he knew the people to instill and empower, it just shows like, hey, when he left temporarily until guys like Marty, I'm blanking the other gentleman's name right now. John Hench stepped up and said, hey, we're gonna talk and show and help the young Imagineers keep Disneyland going. Then we saw that. Then we saw Roy Jr. come in kind of a few years later and really help with the animation side and say, okay, we learned from Walt. Now we're going to entrust that to other people. But you saw when him and Roy were gone that it wasn't there for a little bit.
It definitely put a dent in the company when Walt passed away, for sure. You had a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people scrambling to try to figure out what would Walt do. It was kind of how everyone talks about that time period of Disney, where they weren't coming up with new ideas. They were just trying to figure out what Walt would have done in their, like, if he was still alive. And there's only so much like that was written down. There's only so many more plans he had, because he had a lot of things that was happening. But yeah, a lot of it never really moved on past that point. So yeah, it's just kind of a weird. I'm very surprised and happy that Disney still exists as a company, considering how bad things got for a while after his passing. But I don't know if we want to talk more about that, or I guess we could focus more on his actual lifetime, though. We're kind of veering off course here.
You mentioned a comment though about did I see the show? I did see the show.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna be Lewis about this. If I was blind, it was an A+ show. The audio,
Sit
the
in the back with
story,
bad vision.
yeah. Little DUI goggles, it would have hit home. But overall, beautiful show. Poor execution on the animatronic, but that's the only thing. I think the animatronic was dialed in what it could do, but the likeness between Walt was not there. That's the only thing that's missing. The story, the way it looks, the way you feel. You could have gave Bob Iger maybe 4 or 5 less sentences, but overall, it was a good show. But the likeness of Walt was not there, and it sucks because as we talked about prior to recording, there's a perfectly good statue about 100 yards away that you could have just slapped a negative mold from. But I digress from there. But the show itself was really beautiful.
There are a lot of pieces in that face, apparently. So I don't know. I'm hoping that they can figure it out and fix it in the future. This is just the first draft of the Waltbot 2000, so we'll see what
Well,
goes into
and I
the
don't
improvements.
mind it, but I think where the disconnect is that you have all of the video before it of Walt through the years. And so the last piece that you see is Walt right before he passed, and that is a totally different version of the Walt you see in the animatronic. If they blended that seam between the video and what you physically see on the stage, that it would work a whole lot more. But when you have seen 20 minutes or however long the film is of Walt talking on TV, like he had his shows and all of that, you actually see him talking, and then the curtain pulls back and you see the animatronic, you're like, that is not the same guy I literally just saw. And so I think that's where the disconnect is. But if they had an extra scene or something to kind of blend it, I know I don't know. There's room for improvement for sure, but in knowing what we've talked about with how Lincoln operates and how there's a lot of moving pieces in there, there's only so much room in a robot, especially when you're making him lifelike. That it's tough. But I think with advancing technologies, maybe they'll be able to get there.
Now we'll see what the version looks like over at Magic Kingdom when they put him into Carousel of Progress. So fingers crossed
Yeah.
it's improved version. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, how did Walt say it? As long as his imagination, it'll never be complete. I mean, I'm paraphrasing a lot, but I mean, if we can imagine a better Walt, the Disneyland's still going to be there. So,
They're helping us out. I like that.
Yeah,
I love it.
they're upselling it like Bad Sonic,
Yeah. You appeared on Disney
Well,
Plus in the Rescue Rangers movie. So
what?
Bad Sonic.
What do you-
You're not familiar with this? Like, it was a scary version of Sonic. Everyone was like, "Oh, it's horrible," and then Sega actually changed the design and made it look way better. Like, they didn't just go like Disney kind of does with like, "No, you'll get used to it." They were like, "We'll improve it and make it look really good." And the movie came out, it looked fine. But that scary
Yeah.
version of Sonic though showed up in the Rescue Rangers movie on Disney Plus, the live action Rescue Rangers, and it was like, "Oh, scary Sonic," it's just kind of a yeah. So it was a meme kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for helping me out with that one because I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. What does that have to do with it? Okay.
It's outside
See,
of
I'm out
Disney,
of the
but it
loop.
also was on Disney Plus, so it kind of connects really loosely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now that we're back, I think it's time that we hear from one of our sponsors and figure out what's going on with our Wi-Fi. So let's take a moment and hear from our friends over at Getaway Today.
It's been a great show so far, but who's ready for an ad break? Did you know that the best way to keep our shows going is by supporting our sponsors? So let's get to know more about the travel experts at Getaway Today. They've been helping to make vacation dreams come true since 1990. And whether you want to visit the happiest place on earth or to travel to Orlando for a most epic adventure. They are there to help. Are you trying to find out which hotel is your best option or which theme park tickets will work best for your visit? Are you concerned that you might need a last-minute change? No worries. Their travel experts will help you out. Looking to book a cruise but don't know where to start? Hey, they can help with that too. They will find the perfect cruise for your vacation, whether it's your first time or you're a well-seasoned cruiser. When you book your cruise with one of the Getaway Today experts, you will have a dedicated agent to help you every step of the way. They take care of the details so you can have the most fun. Getaway Today offers peace of mind travel, allowing you to cancel or make changes up to 72 hours before your trip. You will always have the most up-to-date vacation information, both pre-arrival and upon welcome. Getaway Today guarantees the best prices, with no hidden fees, and every time you book through Getaway Today, they will donate a portion back to a charitable organization in your area. And so far, over $4.5 million have been donated. So go ahead and dial 1-855-GETAWAY, that's 1-855-438-2929, and be sure to tell them that Walt's Apartment sent you. Or just click the link in our show notes for more information and the best deals to start your Disney, Universal Studios, or cruise vacation planning. What I'm trying to say is, if you like to travel, check out Getaway Today. Alright, so now it's time to get back to enjoying that view from Walt's apartment. Let's get back to the show.
Yes, definitely make sure to check out our friends over at Getaway Today if you're planning any kind of trip, especially a Disney one, because that way you can go and experience all of the fun and see Walt's Disneyland and in all its glory. So, one we're talking about our favorite Walt stories, and one that came to mind during the break is his love of trains. And that was so awesome to see in the Walt Disney Family Museum. Just all of the videos and stuff of him in the backyard, just with his train set and just being a kid. And even though he's a full grown adult
A
with
grown
kids,
adult, yeah.
yeah, he's a grown adult, but he has this train set and he just has the biggest smile on his face. And it brings such joy every time that I see it. And then to know that that's replicated in the parks, right? We have our train stations. We have the Carrollwood Barn down here in Southern California. We have like his essence and love of trains is everywhere still, and I love that they've preserved that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a chance there wouldn't be a Disneyland if there wasn't his love of trains. So, because you have his train love, and then the love of miniatures, and then his wanting for animatronics, and it's just all kind of snowballed into what we ended up getting. So, yeah, very odd.
You mentioned the Walt Disney Family Museum. I've had the chance of going twice now, and man, what a spot! I mean, it also gives you a sense of like we put Walt on this pedestal of being an idol, a celebrity, Some, but then when you go to the Family Museum or anything really, park, Family Museum, the barn. I'd never been, but I would only assume the studio as well. Everywhere you go, he's not some idol. He's just a human being. And I think that's one thing that always like I enjoy is never at any point outside of social media does Walt Disney get put on as like a celebrity. He's just a person. He's just a dude that had a passion for art, storytelling, creativity, and said, I'm going to run with this. And that's something that I found very cool at the Family Museum, because he never came off at any point, besides the museum being about his family history, as a celebrity.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it's true. And I love too with the museum is that the majority of it is not about Disneyland. There's so much to his story before Disneyland that like we've mentioned on the show, there's generations of people who don't know that and just think, yeah, it's a brand. And it is a person, and to get to learn about his stories and his struggles and his determination and his perseverance and just everything that he went through to have what we have today is truly remarkable. So, highly recommend anybody who is in the area, plan a trip, contact Getaway Today to plan that trip and make it happen. Learn more about Walt Disney and his history. So,
Sure.
and I know
Yeah, I was just thinking
Kevin and
about
I,
oh, what were you gonna say? What do we do?
I was gonna say we've been to Marceline, Missouri,
Yeah,
to
point that
check
out.
out his hometown there. We've been to his Chicago home, not inside, but just outside. The Laugh-O-Gram Studios. So like we've planned our trips around Walt's childhood and his life, and so we have some really great memories there. But go ahead, Kevin.
I was going to point out that the Walt Disney Hometown Museum over in Marceline, Missouri, is actually in that town's former train station. So
Yeah.
back to trains and Walt, it all kind of connects. I have a little like thing of it on my shirt over here. It's kind of hard to see, but yeah.
Yeah. So definitely recommend. Go check out all of these fabulous places. Even the town of Marceline itself, they have a main street. There's a lot of different references that you'll find in today's Main Street USA at Disneyland. And that's a perfect segue. I know we just had a break, but Kevin, share what we just were talking about on this most recent episode of the Word in the Park podcast.
Over on our podcast, an episode that dropped way back on December 5th, if you're listening to this when it comes out. Yeah, we actually went through several of the details at the Disney parks that reference Walt Disney directly. So stuff that references Marceline and the different moments in his life and the accomplishments that he had kind of before the Disneyland park was built. They're kind of peppered in all over the place, but we focus a lot on Disneyland and California Adventure, and then kind of I don't know, just kind of piece in the other parks as they come up. A lot of the things that are in the other parks are also in those two, so it's just kind of a fun little Easter eggs that they've put into the parks, and we go through as many as we can think of. I know we had like one or two we thought of after were done recording, so if you spot them, go ahead and join us and point them out and let us know that you're aware of Disney's effects in the parks as well.
Yeah, and to add on to that, you guys are hitting some good points too. Like, I think if you ever want, for anybody that's an average Disney goer or not, I would encourage, like, always check out the museum, check out the Imagineering store, excuse me, on Disney Plus. Check out all those things, because then when you go to the parks, it adds another layer of unintentional entertainment to ride the train and know that it's not only an attraction at Disneyland, it's attraction that stems directly from Walt. Going down Main Street, understanding the importance of the windows, but then understanding the names on those windows. Like, oh, those names reference these people that created this or that created that. So by visiting the museum, the studios, Marceline, the railroad, all these things that are open to the public to better understand Walt and his family and his journey, that adds another layer of icing to the cake that just makes Disneyland twice as enjoyable. Anybody, I know I do, but anybody that says Disneyland is too expensive, if you pull back the curtains and look in every crevice in the park, you're getting something that is dialed in. Main Street alone has so many side attractions that people don't, since there's not a fast roller coaster or an eyepiece left on it, that there's nothing there. No, Main Street alone has so much character to it, but also history to it. The flag retreat, no other park does that. That's a spectacle all on its own. A marching band, no, a marching band at your high school, you're like, cool. The marching band comes out on Main Street, and you're like, dude, this is here on Disneyland. This is absolutely entertainment that no other park does, but it gives you that story, that hometown vibe. So I would encourage everyone to do a little bit extra homework before your next trip and make that trip twice as special.
And if you don't have time to travel to all those locations, just listen to the December 5th episode of the Walt's Apartment podcast. No, we're in the Park podcast. I can't even fill in my own joke here.
That was solid.
Man,
I've
and check
been
out our
battling my
blog,
throat for the last few days. Yeah, that's true. We have a whole
right?
blog that we just posted, and you
That has
can
pictures and everything.
just scroll through, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. Wearethepark.com. All right.
There it is. But no, Lou, to your point, that's what I love most about going to the Disney parks is all of the different things, the different layers. You're not just walking through an amusement park. You're walking through a themed park, but one of the most themed parks. So you have like you mentioned, any other theme park you go to that's not a Disney park, there's that. Yeah, but it's not doesn't have that Disney magic. Of course not, it's not a Disney park. But especially with going through the Imagineering pyramid like we've been doing on Imagine That, you're like, "Okay, there's no kinetics here. There's no forced perspective that I'm seeing that's well done. There's no, what is the story? I don't know." There's all of these different things, but you have all of that everywhere you look at a Disney park. And so to your point, Lou, of it absolutely takes your fandom to the nth degree. Once you know these details and you go, wait, there's somebody, a name that I didn't recognize before, or who is that? Oh, I don't remember. Oh, wait, they actually influenced XYZ over here. And just diving into why is something there because everything is done with intention, especially at a Disney park. And a huge team of people made that happen. And so knowing who these people are and their reasoning behind it and all of that to bring these immersive experiences to us is just it's everything.
Yep.
So
Absolutely. I mean, some of the rides, three of the biggest rides: Small World, Haunted Mansion, Pirates. Each one of those rides has layers of storytelling, different bookmarks of eras of Disney. Small World, you had Small World when it opened. More recently, you had Small World where they introduced a bunch of the new characters. Now you have the newest rendition of it where it has a whole new verse at the end of it, not including the holiday overlay, layover, whatever word you want to use. There's so many layers to that ride. Pirates. Pirates has seen so much evolution from it opening to opening with part of the scenes from the movie to changing historical scenes to better recognize the future, whether you like it or not. It has so many different fingerprints on it, but it's still the same attraction. Most other theme parks don't do that. You get what you get, or we're going to completely renovate it. And not only that, we're going to completely renovate it, and you have no idea who did what because all we care about is what you see. One of my favorite worst rides at Universal Studios, Jurassic World. What are you doing? You ripped off all the original magic to that ride to give us something that is almost heartless. You wouldn't have sold that at Disneyland. Absolutely not. So for me, doing more homework allows you to appreciate the attractions just a little bit more.
Hmm. I have issues with people talking poorly about Jurassic World over here, but it's one of those things where they added some really big animatronics to into that attraction that are really amazing and really plus the ride, in my opinion. The screens at the beginning are okay, but I mean, I think that it's better than the poor floppy neck dinosaurs that used to be in that location. So again, if you like Universal like we do, don't listen to Lou. He's being crazy. All right.
Hold on.
oh, here we
Hold
go.
on. I enjoy Universal. I do. Jurassic Park was one of my favorite attractions as a kid. And I think they gave us some better stuff. Obviously, we're not a Universal podcast, but real quick, never in the history of ever, when you're on a ride, should you see the animatronics of how things work. The Indominus Rex neck is fully exposed when you're passing it. You look to the left and you can see the inside of its neck. The raptor that comes sliding down, you can see the full-blown machine. The dinosaur pops its head underwater, you can see that there's no body to it. The water is so clear. All I'm saying is they didn't plus it. They just took a step to the left and said, here's something new, and you wouldn't have got that at Disneyland. When they plus it, they doubled down on the word plus. Even as somebody that is a diehard Splash Mountain fan, the animatronics and the appreciation to aesthetics that they gave Tiana's works. Don't think the ride attraction fits the story, but that's another conversation. But the animatronics, the look, the color, the light, the paint, the smell, that's a plus. to rip out animatronics and give us a concrete jungle in the raptor enclosure doesn't make sense. Not only that, I've never caught a sunburn on a ride in the middle of summer at Universal Studios. The concrete jungle is ridiculous. You're sweating on an attraction, and it's outrageous.
All right. Let's get back to Walt. Okay.
Wow.
Too funny.
My apologies.
See, it's been a minute, Lou, and you're coming out
Yeah.
swinging. It's all good. It's all good. You gotta get that
I'm
out
letting Drake
eventually.
be over here. What's happening?
When we hit and record, we can have some conversations.
All right. Perfect. Until then.
All right. Well, gosh, where do we even go from here? I say sorry, Lou, wouldn't put you on the spot again. We're going to hear from our third sponsor, Sunken City Designs, before we get into our Armchair Imagineering. So, Lou, what's going on with Sunken City Designs right now?
Oh, we're doing it off the cuff. That's why you said that.
Oh,
Okay.
do you want to play the ad, or do you want to talk about it?
No.
We'll
We'll talk about it.
I forgot about the ad.
We'll talk about it.
I can play it.
No, you're good. We'll chat about it. We'll make it fun.
Okay.
So right now, we are in the middle of finishing up our kids' art day, wrapping up, collecting some art supplies to give out to youngsters for the holidays. Super stoked on that. We are also neck deep in preparing for our Sacred Art Show, which is my first ever solo exhibition. That starting August of next year. Invites and flyers go out January 1 to make sure you RSVP. Excuse me. It's going to be a 30-day exhibition, but August 2nd and 3rd, I believe it is. It's the first weekend of August is our opening weekend. I'll be there. Friends and family are welcome to come join. We'll be signing prints, all kinds of cool stuff. I'll be popping in throughout the month of August, but our focus is going to be that Saturday evening, the first Saturday of August. We'll be there talking about pieces, the story and reasoning behind the name Sacred Art, also sharing some of the key pieces that have influenced this journey. So lots of things going on with Sunken City. We just relaunched the website. If you're watching this on YouTube, we have the website up right now. We just relaunched the website, and we have partnered with a company that does skateboards, and we have a skateboard website available too. We have currently 10 decks available. 8 of those are your traditional popsicle stick decks, and then we have 2 exclusive Ninja Turtle ones that are a throwback to the 90s, and they are on the shredder board. So we're doing a lot of cool things. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Sunken City Designs. We do have a Facebook page. It's not as cool and dialed in as Instagram, but Instagram is where you'll find me. You'll find me posting daily. You can message me there, all that fun stuff. So yeah, a lot of cool things going on right now, and excited for the year of 2026.
Yeah, sounds like it. You got a lot going on. And I just want to remind everybody, go check out the Amazon registry that Lou has up on his page. You can go over to Walt's apartment on Instagram, Sunken City Designs on Instagram. We're on the park Instagram. We have everything linked in our bio to this page that you see on the screen if you're watching us on YouTube. Hi. It has the things that Lou is putting together for the young artists, the Boys and Girls Club and High Desert artists. So we're looking for sketchbooks, mechanical pencils, paint sets, colored pencils. So there is still time to buy off of Amazon, and everything gets sent directly to Lou, which is awesome. So you don't have to worry about shipping or anything. So very, very cool what you're doing, Lou.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm stoked for this project. This project is aimed towards the older kids, the junior high school and high school age kids. A lot of those kids get forgotten. Not necessarily forgotten, but forgotten on the maturity level. They get crayons, they get coloring books, but some of these youngsters, they're artists that are looking for art to create, art as an outlet. So these items that you see here on the screen, if you're watching on YouTube, these items are meant to inspire young adults to become artists, or give them just a healthy outlet to distract themselves. A little bit of escapism, kind of like what Disney does for us adults.
Love that. That's
And I
awesome.
did want to remind everyone, if you are longtime listeners of Walt Disney Productions, his website is now www.sunkencitydesigns.com. So he's got the S in there
Yep.
now.
A little bit of a promotion.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So let's get into our armchair imagineering segment. So for this, we're going to do things a little bit differently. But if Walt was here today, what are some things that he would have wanted to change, or things that we know kind of his frame of mind? Are you playing something, Lou?
No, it's not. It's the family. Hold on, I'll fix it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so for today's armchair imagineering, we have been talking about Walt, and so we kind of know his frame of mind and maybe some of his ideas maybe ended up on the cutting room floor. So if Walt was here today, what are some things that he would have wanted to change, or what are some things that he would want to see in the parks today if it hasn't been created yet? So, a lot to unpack. Um, what are we thinking? Kevin, I see your face.
Oh, I didn't know who wants to go first.
Lou, do you want to go first?
I'll go first. It's an easy
All
one.
right.
If there
Oh.
was one thing that I think Walt would change, we wouldn't have an animatronic of himself in the park.
Or a statue.
Or a statue. Yeah, I don't think we'd see anything Walt related. I mean, we'd have probably a bigger Mickey statue. We'd probably have a Mickey animatronic show of some sort, or like more. But I don't think we'd see Walt in any of the parks today. If obviously if he's here today, it'd be a little weird for statues, but even more so, I don't think we'd see an animatronic show of him. But that's an easy one off the nose.
Well, that's what you wouldn't. What would you see?
So what would see? My bad.
Yeah. I think that was the question on the table.
Well,
Yeah.
Disneyland would be twice as big. I don't think we would run into the push that we've been shared with and pursuit he has. I don't think we'd be this boxed in on Disneyland. I really don't. And I think DCA would be twice its size.
I definitely think that DCA would have had a completely different vision. It wouldn't be California, because it was like how it is now, where it's supposed to be a 1920s feel of Walt coming in to California. That's like the Buena Vista Street side, so it would be a completely different vibe. But yeah, I definitely think that he would utilize that parking lot where DCA is now. Um, Eventually you run out of room going back, past Toontown. You're going to hit the freeway at some point. Um, but there was definitely a lot of land to work with. Um, but I just don't know the parameters outside of the parking lot and what he had access to. But I definitely think that there would be a lot of changes. I don't think DCA would be what it is today, for sure.
Yeah.
But real quick, 'cause I'm curious for this. Do you think DCA and Disneyland would even be two separate parks, or would our ticket turnstiles be moved? Because obviously he wanted the one entrance to parks. Would it be moved to let Disneyland and DCA just become Disneyland as a whole? Do you think we'd see two parks, or would it just be one giant one?
I was just thinking, I have a feeling that if Walt was still alive, it would still be a parking lot. Because I mean, if you think about what Walt was working on before he passed away, right? He was working on Epcot, like the experimental prototype community of tomorrow, not the theme park, and he was working on Mineral King, the ski lodge over in the Sierras. Sierras. So it's one of those things where he wasn't thinking of like what can we add as another like, guest thing to do at Disneyland. It was like he was thinking beyond that. He was thinking of what comes next. I don't know if he would have dwelled on let's build another park over here. That was more of a corporate ideology of like, the 90s of we need to get guests to stay in the park longer because they learned that at Walt Disney World where he never experienced that. He didn't see having two parks means that people stay there longer and becomes more of a vacation destination. His view of Walt Disney World, or Disney World as he thought of it, the Florida project, was that it was going to have a theme park because people were expecting it, but the main thing was going to be his experimental prototype community. So it was just kind of a weird, like, I don't know if he would have even built a second theme park in California. He was wanting to do other things. He probably would have had a whole wacky new idea that we can't even fathom. That we'd be like, yeah, can you imagine if Walt had died, we wouldn't have this amazing other thing that's much better than Disneyland. But again, he did pass away, so we don't know what that could have been.
You're on to something because me and Sean, back when things like the Mad Tea Party existed, had this discussion. And if we take the concept of Snow White, where he said, "Hey, I've already handed that over. I can't change nothing." He was always on moving forward. Me personally, I think Disneyland would have became the middle child. Walt Disney World in Florida would have became his new vision. I think the reason why Disneyland is so cherished today is because that is the only park he had hands on. But I think if he would have lived even another 10 years to see Magic Kingdom and Epcot really take off, I don't think Disneyland would be as popular as it is today. I think the roles would switch. Magic Kingdom is very popular, but more to tourists and stuff like that, where Disneyland is a locals park. I know geographically it still makes sense, but I think Walt Disney World would carry more of a fandom because that was his last park that he was really like foot on the ground. I stayed here. There's photos of me in this park. I think it would have flip flopped. So I do agree with you. I think that parking lot would have stayed the same, not only because he would have been done with Disneyland, but two, it breaks the storyline of you going into the story of Disneyland. So I think you might be honest, and I think that would have stayed a parking lot.
Yeah. I agree. And now thinking a little bit more about it, like Walt definitely had a clear vision for Disneyland, and like you said, Lou, like you walk through the gates and it is a show. You go underneath the train, like it is a theatrical performance, and to have it then continue on to be where the parking lot would be, it just wouldn't flow as well. I can see him wanting to go outside of the berm a little bit, but just because eventually you're going to have where how can we plus, right? So yes, Magic Kingdom and Florida would have been his, his new shiny thing and constantly be working, but I don't think he is the type to be like, okay, this is going to stay stagnant and we're not going to do anything with this for 40 years. He would always be like, okay, what is on the block to be renovated or touch up with paint, and we need to keep this looking pristine and new. And I think he would take a look at the guest expectations and looking at reviews and going, okay, people aren't liking this attraction anymore over here at Disneyland. How can we add and change and make it something that people would want to experience? So I think that it wouldn't be a Disneyland's fine, I'm over here in Florida. He would have his feet on both soils.
We already said like he was a master delegator. So I mean, even when he was working on Disney, like the movies were still being produced, but
Mhm.
he wasn't really hands-on with that department of the Walt Disney Company at the time. And I think, like, I mean, I don't know, obviously, I'm just guessing here, that he would have done something similar with Disneyland when he started working on Epcot, the city, where it was like, hey, you know what? We have people who can run the theme park now. We've already established that. It's great. It's its own thing. I'm going to focus on this other thing to try to better humanity. Because I mean, that's kind of what he was really trying to get to. It was like stepping stones to kind of improving life for everyone. It was the generosity of him. and yeah, I don't know if it would have worked or not. I was telling Amanda before the show that I've read things online of I don't know if it's the DHI website or it's the Disney History Institute, talking about how the idea that Walt had for Epcot was that he was going to have companies kind of like premiere their R&D designs in that experimental prototype community. So people who were living there, they wouldn't actually live there. They would just lease out like a house for a limited period of time, and they would experience these new things that all the companies were working on. But today, like these companies don't have these big R&D departments like they did back in the late 60s, and it wouldn't really work today. So I don't know, like if maybe if Walt was alive and like because again he did kind of motivate a lot of companies to do things that were outside of their wheelhouse. He could be that he would have had it where these companies were still doing their own R&D today. I don't really know, but now they kind of just have it where people create things and they buy these ideas and then unroll them as their own. So it's kind of a weird world that we live in today that wasn't the same world that Walt Disney lived in back in the 60s. So, yeah, I don't know. I like to think that he would have been all hands on with that. But again, like I said before, there was also Mineral King, the ski resort, because he was a big fan of skiing and he really wanted to work. And if he lived there, there's a very good chance that that would have actually happened. That he would have been able to like quell the people who are so upset about like them building in the middle of what eventually became a national park. So, or around the outskirts of it at least. So I don't know. I don't know what would have been focused on.
Yeah.
A lot to
No,
think
I,
about
I
though.
definitely agree. I agree with that. I do think too, like we were talking about, like he is an innovator, and I think that um, with Epcot, if Epcot worked out how he had envisioned, I do think that a lot of companies would have continued with their R&D because they would have seen how valuable Epcot is in being this think tank, and you are around like-minded people, and who knows what new things would have sparked from all of these people kind of hanging out and having ideas and all of that, even if it is kind of a revolving door of people staying there with the limited time projects, and then they move on, a new company comes in. That is means for a robust conversation of, hey, I was working on this over here, what can you bring to the table, new collaborations. So it's interesting to think about, like what could have been, and who knows, maybe down the road R&D picks back up and companies will want to do something along those lines. Um,
You could have had flying cars probably if Epcot would have been put in place.
Now, I do think that there's a small thing here that Walt would have done that's already in action, and the three of us had the
Okay.
chance to see it, and that's going to be Cotino. I really think that's something, especially in Palm Springs. It probably would have had a lot more Disney push versus like the partnership of Disney. Um, but I think what's going on right now in like the Palm Springs area with Cotino is something we would have saw. Well, we are seeing, but I think something that Walt would have really backed, especially having being a resident of Palm Springs for like vacation home. I think that's something. If we were to get a taste of what Epcot could have been, I think Cotino is probably the best thing we have right now, closest in comparison. A small, lived-in community. It's got, well, not yet, but shopping, retailing, entertainment, and then all the houses are built within an image that they're trying to keep. I think that's something that Walt today would be very proud of, to say, hey, we're building this. I don't know if Incredibles would be the center point. I don't think that would have been. But I think it would have, what we have going on here in Palm Springs, I think is something that Walt would have signed off on.
Yeah, we'll have to
yeah.
wait and see how all that comes together, especially in the shopping area. I'm excited for that to open. I think it said next year sometime that we should be able to go there just as not as residents, but as guests who don't live there. We can actually still go visit. If you guys don't know what this is, look it up. Cotino. It's the community by Disney. I think there's another one over in North Carolina that they're building. I'm sure it's a different design, but it's interesting in these different communities. Again, I don't really know how much hands-on like the Walt Disney Company is with these. It's kind of like they're partnering, like whoever's creating these are partnering with Disney Imagineering to tell the story, and it's a lot of fun. We went, like Lisa, we went there and did a tour, and it looks like a lot of fun. So we'll see what it becomes.
Yeah. If Walt was here, I think it'd be a full Disney project. I think Disney would be like, no. You'd have monorails and people movers transporting you all around. I think you'd see a lot more dust of Disneyland versus what we are getting out of the theming today.
Yeah, I was just thinking that of like I think the layout would be completely different. I would think there'd be a lot more transportation, a lot more movement, and not
More
just be
businesses,
a
yeah.
neighborhood, but have more, those different pods, where you have this is your park area, this is your business area, and it'd be a full fledged like town, a community. So, but yeah, I am excited to see because I mean, like you said, we did get to tour. We went through all of the model homes and we got to go see the giant wall of the map of, this is phase one, this is phase two, this is phase six, all the way down, and just how massive this is going to be. So it is going to be very interesting to see how everything works together. Is it all just going to be homes, or are there going to be different things to do around the property to make it more of an Epcot-y feel? So, very interesting. We'll have to make quite a few road trips out there to go check it out. So, all right. Anything else before we can close out?
It's so hard to really think of what Walt would do or add or change, knowing like it change almost anything. But at the same time, too, to think like, what would he change or add in today's climate? I mean, I'm very curious. I don't know if we have as many IP lands in the park. I think that kind of suffocates a little bit of storytelling. So I think the layout of all the parks where there's IP would look a little bit different than what it does today. I definitely don't think we'd have a Galaxy's Edge. We'd probably have maybe like some type of space land to find a close second. Um, Animal Kingdom, we obviously know that's going to be a thing, but things like Pandora probably wouldn't be an exact land. I wouldn't say that IP wouldn't be in the park because obviously Peter Pan, Snow White, those are Disney IP. But I don't think it'd be. I think it'd be very much like Fantasyland is. Hey, we have these characters, but Fantasyland is their home. I think the lands and the maps would look a lot different if Walt was still here today.
I mean, that all kind of depends on if that timeline would have still had Universal Studios getting the rights to Harry Potter. So,
That's
I think that's kind of what disrupted the entire theme park industry as far as these lands becoming a land based off of an IP.
Well, didn't Bugs Land be a thing before Harry Potter?
It wasn't a successful land, but it was there. Yeah,
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
it was still an immersive land. You were
it
the
was
size of a
cute.
bug.
It was cute, but it wasn't like you had the droves of people coming in and changing like the way you think about how to build a theme park, which is what
Yeah,
Harry
that's
Potter did to Islands of Adventure when it opened, where it was like, oh wait, you can actually change your number of guests by that many by having a themed land to one IP. What else can we do? Like every attraction that we have, if we're gonna add it, it's gonna be its own land for that IP, and it kind of became the way they do theme parks, at least for the last 10, 15 years now. So
Yeah.
yeah,
mm,
is it
for
good or
sure.
bad? I don't know. I mean, I love walking through Pandora over in Animal Kingdom. Don't get me wrong, day or night, it's a lot of fun. But it,
I
yeah,
I think the IP lands have a lot of potential if done right. I mean, I haven't been there in person, but Pandora looks like it's been done right. Galaxy's Edge, even though I critique it a lot, has a lot of things done right. It also has a lot of things done wrong. And then you have IP lands that I don't think have any type of Walt's rules by any guideline, that being Avengers Hallway. that I don't think they listened to anything of the pyramid. Like they just kind of went for it. So I mean, as I do love the IP lands, it does suffocate it a little bit because now you know this is going to be this way forever. You're not going to get
Well,
different themes or anything
I
like
mean, we
that.
just covered a Bugs Land. I mean, obviously, not every and nothing in a theme park is forever. It's kind of like the rule that we've learned, especially we're in the park over here, where even things that you think will be there for forever, it's like they will disappear. So you never know. Any of these things can change over time. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, that's very true. Like Lou said, to paraphrase Walt, as long as there's imagination left in the world, Disneyland
Yeah.
or any Disney park will never be complete. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I saw a quote over at that Walt Disney Family Museum when we went there, where it had a quote from Walt. I don't remember the exact wording, but he referred to Disneyland as a piece of clay, where he's like, I can mold it, and if there's something I don't like, I can change it because nothing here is permanent. It was kind of his viewpoint on Disneyland was that anything that wasn't working could be changed. And it was a very interesting viewpoint that a lot of people today, like who want for that park to be or any theme park to be a museum, it just goes against what Walt thought of as like again his ball of clay that he can change at his will. So very interesting.
Well, I have a question. I don't want to answer, but it's just a question I'm throwing out.
I'll still give you an answer.
Me, me, me and Sean have battled this one, but they also mentioned it in the Imagineering story after Walt's passing, and they say I'm paraphrasing it, but they say, you know, there'll never be someone like Walt ever again, and they say, but we sure hope so. Without an answer, just thinking about it, or you can answer, it doesn't matter now. Do you think there is another Walt out there? Or do you think, or if not, can there be ever another Walt? So I just think about that. I think there's, do we know him? Probably not. Is there someone out there? I truly believe that there's another Walt out there that just hasn't been given the chance yet.
I think that sounds fair.
yeah. I think that sounds fair. And if you're out there listening, future Walt Disney, know that Walt started with just a dream and he
Suitcase.
persevered, he pushed through,
And a dream.
and that suitcase. Got to have a suitcase or it doesn't count. And
$40 in his pocket.
right. Just $40. 39, 41, no. $40 in a cardboard suitcase. Anyway, make sure that you persevere and push through on your dreams because look at the difference it's made in all of our lives. In all of us here in podcast land, you listeners listening, all of us have Walt Disney to thank because without him, none of us would be in the same room, listening to this and talking about all things Disney. So if yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying, he had $40, and based on inflation, that would be $670. So if you just have $670 lying around,
perfect.
You can start something.
There you go. That's all it takes.
There you go.
And an Uncle Robert. That also helps.
And an Uncle Robert.
Also, if you are that future Walt Disney, please join us on our perfectly free Discord over at discord.com. And I don't know, there's a link in the show notes, I think. We'd love to hear your ideas.
Yes. And if you need any help with anything, definitely let us know because we've been studying on, the Imagineering pyramid and theme park design and all kinds of stuff. And we got ideas. So we can be of help to you. So give us a call. Oh, but if you have enjoyed this episode, and I hope you have, then please scroll down on your podcast player and give us a 5-star rating. And if you have an extra minute to leave a written review or share it with another Armchair Imagineer, that would be amazing. It just tells Apple, Spotify, and all the other players out there that we're doing something awesome. And if you're watching us over on YouTube, hi! Be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Be sure to check out our amazing sponsors, our free Discord, as Kevin mentioned, and our Patreon page for all the details. Links to everything are in the show notes below. And until next time, continue to place trust in the magic of imagination. And remember, the details within the parks surround us in our everyday lives. Imagine that. See you next time.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land. Here age relives fond memories of the past, and here youth may savor the challenge and promise of the future. Disneyland is dedicated to the ideals, the dreams, and the hard facts that have created America, with the hope that it will be a source of joy and inspiration to all the world.